Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Purim. As we find ourselves between Purim and Shushan Purim this Shabbat. And I want to greet all of our friends and guests from France. Soyez bienvenus. C'est un grand plaisir voir beaucoup de participants de France. It's wonderful to welcome all of you. And before I begin, I want to take a moment to thank all of you, our Temple Amuna family. The love that I have received over the last 4 weeks since my father died has been a true balm to my pain. My family has felt how supportive this community is, and we thank you for that embrace. My father's death from COVID happened quickly and was extraordinarily painful, as he was forced out of the hospital at first when he was deemed not sick enough to stay. The NYU hospital at the beginning of January was overrun with so many cases that it could not keep up. And then he got so sick that they took him back, and within a week he could not breathe. We had to make the excruciating decision to put him on a ventilator, which was not able to save him, as he died 6 days later. I can't imagine his pain and fear and loneliness as he struggled to breathe, and he was alone. My father was the 76th funeral, virtually or in person, at which I've officiated since this pandemic began, and obviously the most painful one. But my father would not want me to dwell simply on sadness and loss. He lived with a joie de vivre, a love of every aspect of life. He lived with gusto, loving great kosher food and films and so much more. He taught me a unique approach to Judaism, focused on welcoming people who were converting to Judaism, inviting them into our home. It was a Judaism, while it did not ignore the intellectual side, and in particular, he loved Jewish history. His approach emphasized that Judaism should be lived. It should be experienced. Its values are not merely transmitted from one generation to the next with books or learning, but its most intense transmission occurs in the home and within the community, where we can see and feel it. He celebrated a Judaism that was thick with observance, knowing that the deeper our religious and spiritual practices are, the more likely that everyone, especially the next generation, would feel Jewish and thus would be actively engaged in Jewish life. He preached that Jews came to shul on the wrong days. If you were to pick only 2 days to come to shul, they should not be Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, intense and somber and complicated liturgical days that are truly hard to access unless one has mastered the regular prayers. And so he advocated for 2 other holidays, Simchat Torah and Purim. Why? Because they are the most joyous and the most easily accessed. How much do you need to learn, after all, to come to shul and dance, have an aliyah, and drink a l'chaim on Simchat Torah? Purim's even easier, since we all know how to dress up in costumes. We all love humor, and masks, of course, are ubiquitous these days. We all love shtick. While my dad was not much of a technology or Zoom person, he would have loved this past Thursday night. It was an amazing evening as we utilized all the aspects of Zoom, spotlighting, breakout rooms, screen sharing our slides as we heard the Megillah. We even enjoyed using our chat Kahoot games, and polls. We could all even donate larger sums than ever before by using our credit cards, sustaining the poor, and fulfilling the mitzvah of matanot la'avyonim, gifts for those in need. But I want to share with you two deeper aspects of Purim. First of all, the Megillah is a fiction, and it's supposed to be. It is full of ridiculousness, as the king is a buffoon. There is all kinds of sexual innuendo, and God does not appear in the text even once. In case all of that wasn't enough, the names of the protagonists contain clear messages. Mordechai is riffing off of Marduk, the ancient Mesopotamian god during the time of the Megillah, sometime between the 4th through 2nd century BCE. And Esther, according to most scholars, is related to the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. Thus, the main two characters are not just given non-Jewish names, but these are major non-Jewish names. It would be as if the Megillah were written today. We would name the two characters Jesus and Mary. The ridiculousness of this would make you chuckle. And that, of course, is the point. Finally, the fact that the Jews have so much power that they even kill the Persians is ludicrous. Jews had no power with their minority status in the Persian kingdom. But even though the book is fun fiction, it, of course, speaks to a deeper truth. This truth is anti-Semitism. Even existing 2,300 years ago, Jews are reviled as, quote, a certain people scattered and dispersed among the other peoples in all the provinces of your realm, whose laws are different from those of any other people, and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in your majesty's interest to tolerate them. These, of course, are the words of Haman, but they could have just as easily been written by the Nazis 100 years ago, or by white supremacists and QAnon followers today on the internet. The book of Esther speaks to our fragility of our existence as a minority. And thus we are called not only to protect ourselves, but also to speak out and support other minority groups, all those on the fringes of society. The second deeper message is that even when we seem to be abandoned, we are asked to remain hopeful, even joyful. There is normal expressive joy we feel at happy, simple moments. You might be eating a delicious slice of pizza or enjoying an episode of Schitt's Creek. By the way, I'm only on the 4th season, so please, no spoilers. But there is also another kind of joy beyond expressive joy, and that is therapeutic joy. This is the joy that helps us recover from trauma, that helps us heal. The Jews of Shushan, or many other places over our 4,000-year-old history, experienced trauma, fear, violence, hate. They experienced anti-Semitism. Purim functioned as a measure of therapeutic healing. This year, we feel that even more intensely as we come to the 1-year anniversary of experiencing this pandemic. In the words of the Megillah, v'na'afochu, everything has been turned on its head. Instead of going to work, most of us stay home. Instead of meeting with people in the same physical space, we video conference. Instead of building community in person, we make the best of this Zoom platform. The entire planet has been traumatized by this virus and our efforts to stop its spread. We, the survivors, are called upon to remember the already 2.5 million people around the globe and the over 500,000 people who have already died in our country, most of them due to negligence and the lack of any moral or competent leadership. But what we now need the most is some therapeutic joy, the kind of joy we experienced on Thursday night, the kind of joy we will feel again on Sunday during Shushan Purim, on Sunday afternoon at our car parade and carnival in the parking lot. In this upside down world, we can lose our bearing, but we know that there is healing joy. We feel that today at Thomas's bar mitzvah, a simcha that is bringing people together from around the globe. My father understood that Purim was medicine for the Jewish soul. In the early days of his rabbinate, in the aftermath of the Shoah, the Holocaust, he understood that we need to feel the happiness of redemption. That's what this 3-day Purim is all about. It's, of course, 3 days since Shabbat delays the second Shushan Purim, the Purim that's observed in Jerusalem. So we find ourselves in the midst of this transformative joy, which will hopefully serve as a model as we start to come out of this pandemic. While everything has been turned over, we remember that we are called upon to protect ourselves and all those on the margins. But we also know that we have the tools embedded so deeply in our tradition. Purim reminds us that we can overcome the loss and heal, though it will take some time and therapeutic joy. Shabbat Shalom and happy Purim.